me know because I didn't record yesterday's call, y'all. Yesterday was a pretty good call, but you know what? Evidently the universe said, well, we don't really need you to do that right now. That was a special one. So I appreciate y'all. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to dive right in. I can jump off here. I got a hard stop right about 7 o'clock. Do me a favor, everybody. Go ahead and send out your messages of joy, your messages of love, your 3 messages that you want to tell somebody you really appreciate them. And when you get that done, go ahead and type a D in the chat for done. You got this done. And I'd ask you to put a little bit of, I don't want to say effort into it, but I do want to say, hey, there's Brittany Zotalari. Brittany Z. We'll just call her that.
Zottarelli.
Oh, yes. So I had a conversation with Lee last night. That was kind of cool.
Oh, cool. What did he say?
Yeah, so he reached out to me and we had a quick conversation about how to have conversations with CEOs. So it was very cool. He's I say kid because I'm like old enough to be his dad. So
he is a kid.
So good morning, everybody. Great to have you all here. I'm not even sure what today's going to be about, but here's what I do want to do. I want to start it off. And there's Shammy with a D done. She's done. She got it done. So Brittany, you've got your hand raised. We're going to just jump into questions real quick. So Brittany, go ahead with BRITTNEE.
Yeah. So, a lot of people call me Bree, but there's also another Bree on this call, so I literally just can't win. So, okay. So earlier, right before this call, I was meditating, right?
Yep.
And a question came to me, and I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to ask Sean," right? And the question was, "What is fear?" But not necessarily like what is fear as far as being afraid, but not like literally what is fear? What is it composed of? What triggers it? Where does it come from? Why does it happen? Why are certain things scarier than the others? Like,
so Bree, that's a great question. And here's how my mentor shared it to me, and here's how I share it to my students. So let's take a step back. If we look at fear and what it does, fear can do 2 things, and it usually does them to a very extraordinary level. One thing it could do is to stall us. The other thing it can do is to move us. See, when you look at herd mentality, like in stadiums where you see people start to get fearful and they start to herd just like animals, sometimes people get killed. People absolutely get run over. There's nothing in a person's brain. I saw Morning Family. Hey, Brianna. And I saw, so there's nothing in a person's brain that says, I like to run people over and crush them. There just isn't. So fear does a couple of things. Fear will move you immensely fast, or it'll freeze you. So how does that happen? So if we look at the results of fear, maybe we can understand it a little bit more. And so the results of fear are non-normal activities, non-normal productivity, right? Either we get stuck or we do things in rage. So how does that happen? How does the body actually transfer? How does the body actually transform some idea? That's usually what it is. So I've been held at gunpoint in Lima, Peru. I've almost died 3 times. So I've had these different experiences in my body, and they were all fearful, right? I also was at the birth of my son. That was fearful. It was the same energy, but we call it excitement, right? So where does fear come from? It comes out of the brain. Paulo Coelho in his book, Manuscript Found in a Cross, says, no heart ever suffered on its journey to its destination. No heart ever suffers when it's on its journey. So fear is not from the heart. Fear is not from the heart. When I ask people, if I were to ask every one of you right now in this room on this call, if I were to ask you to point to the most important person in the room, and you did that, where would you point? Who would you point to? Most people are going to do this, and they point somewhere to the center of their chest. There's very few people in the thousands and thousands of people I've asked who have ever pointed here, or to their knee, or took their shoe off and pointed to their little toe. They point right here. So this is where we operate on. So there's the heart and there's the brain. And what happens is when the heart starts to take its place, when the heart starts to step in, when the heart starts to be the one in charge, the brain shuts it down and goes, no. That's not our pattern. Because whenever, listen carefully, type an H in the chat if you ever felt this, if you've ever experienced this. If you've ever done anything from your heart and it was totally new, but you knew you were doing it from your heart, and in this total new, there was this total excitement, there was this total, just absolutely unbelievable comprehension of joy, something you were fearful of, but maybe it was to stand up to protect a child. Maybe it was to raise money for somebody who's dying. Maybe it was, so this moment when you step into your heart, you're instantly healed. You're healed of fear. You're healed of doubt. You're healed of mistrust. You're healed of all of these things that the brain uses to keep you stuck. So where does the emotion of wanting to live from your heart or wanting to deal with your brain? It actually is the chemicals that get produced by the thought. When you have these feelings that produce thoughts, and thoughts produce actions, and actions produce results, stress is when one of those are out of alignment. You can have the feeling, you can have the thought. Most of us fall short on the action, therefore we produce stress. So therefore, a long answer, I get it, but I do a one-day training seminar on how to absolutely use fear to your advantage and how to take fear and do a Wayne Dyer on it, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change, and all of a sudden fear becomes your friend and you no longer call it that. So where does it come from? It comes from the chemical cocktail you create in your brain when you have a thought. It's that simple.
So I was reading something about I guess like not necessarily fear, but there are these defense mechanisms that come from within our subconscious, which we cannot see because our subconscious is just literally like a blacked out area. And to protect ourselves in whatever way, these things come from up within our subconscious as a warning sign.
So absolutely. So the keys where those are it's called pattern recognition, right? If you start to see somebody swerve across the line as you're driving your car, you instantly react. You didn't go, I wonder what they're thinking. It shut down your cognitive ability to, I wonder what kind of shoes they're wearing that's making them swerve across the line. You instantly go into the fight or flight. So your brain is constantly in a phenomenon called nexting. Constantly nexting. Right now you're running about 3 or 4, maybe 5 different conversations of where I could possibly go based upon your experience with me, of where I might go with this conversation. That's what allows you to keep up, even though I'm speaking sometimes fast and I'm not giving you the chance to pause. So the brain does have these things wired in. The challenge is that some of them are wired in from when you were a child. And these things that got wired in as a child, you're still using today because the brain uses it as a pattern at a subconscious level, 70,000 thoughts a day. You're conscious of 3,000 to 5,000, and 90% of them are from yesterday. So this stuff all gets carried over. So when you were in meditation and you heard the question, it's because your brain was able to start to take all of the stuff it has on the floor of the brain and starting to organize it. And that's one of the driving conversations that you have on a regular basis, was this fear question. What I would encourage you to do is to go, when you go back into your meditation, the next time you go back into your meditation, is to sit there quietly and you answer the question. Say, you know, that's a great question. What would my answer be if I told myself? What would my answer be if I had that? If I was able to be good at answering the question about fear, I would say, fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm going to try that, and then I'll get back with you tomorrow.
Outstanding. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, if you got a question or you got a comment, go ahead and raise your hand. I know we got to do that, but we've got 60 amazing folks on here who are absolutely awesomeness. But if you do have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. So last night, I don't know if some of you saw on my posts, I met somebody that's absolutely, I've heard people talk about her, and she is all of that in a bag of chips. Her name is Pastor Kim, Real Talk Kim. And she is amazing. And I got to meet her at the airport and give her a hug. And then we spent time together. We spent time together at dinner. And none of this was planned. Listen, none of this was planned. We got to spend time together. But the thing that I loved most, how many of you love being able to give to your friends, right? Even if it's just a little moment. So here's what happened. I had met her at the airport because there was nobody at the airport. There was her and her assistant, and she's wearing this amazing coat that you see in the picture that I posted here on Instagram. And she was standing there, and and I've been in that same spot when I spoke in China and I speak around the world. People recognize me at the airport and they come over and you're just, yeah, hey, that's cool. There was something special about this woman, and we took a picture together. And so we chatted for a little bit, and I told her thank you. And I said, I haven't had the chance. I'm glad our lifetime friendship begins today. And she's just this very expressive person. And she goes, man, I love you, with that gravelly, raspy voice of hers. And so I get in the truck and I drive away, and she gets into another host's car, and they drive back to the hotel. Well, they're standing outside. Now I'm dropping off. I'm bringing other friends of mine from Latin America. So this was a group from Panama that had Panama that had just flown in. And so we drop them off at the airport. And somebody who you guys know, the pink robe lady, is absolutely, when she heard we were sitting at lunch with somebody.
Whoop, whoop, pink robe lady.
When she was sitting at lunch with somebody, she goes, well, that's my friend. I actually brought her to this event. And we're like, oh my gosh. And Rhonda goes, I need to meet her. I need to meet her. And so I'm going to be you guys know me. I'm an open book. Sometimes I'm a blank page, but I'm an open book. I said, wouldn't that be cool to give her that gift? What a neat thing to just be able to make that introduction. I know they'll absolutely have a blast. So I'm pulling out, listen, this is how great God is. I'm pulling out with the van. I'm in the van, driving the car, and I see Kim standing there, and I see Ronda, and Ronda's being this gracious host to all of the friends who are showing up. And I went, Ronda. And the funniest thing was, you just get this feeling with people. And I said to Kim, hey, Kim, do you know Ronda? She goes, no, who? I go, right there. And Ronda goes, hold on. And I drive off. And so I'm not sure what happened after that. I'm sure it was.
I got to meet Kim. Woo, y'all. It was on. Sean doesn't understand this statement. This is an old statement. I said it's on like a pot of neck bone. Y'all, Kim is freaking amazing. We had, 2 or 3 hours with her?
Yeah.
Woo, best gift ever. What?
Well, but Christine is the one that made this all happen. I just happened to be with the introduction, but I couldn't even give you the gift or that simple introduction.
I know. Oh, y'all, when you can give gifts to your friends like that, let me tell you, that is And
I wasn't even there for her to open it. I saw them connect, and that was it. And I drove off, and I'm like, oh, how cool.
But then when he came back, we're all eating dinner together. Woo!
And then some of you who know Heather Love, who's actually in the other room, she actually, so here's how I say this with love. She stole the stage. She stole the stage. Look who's walking into my room. Listen, I am not the Don Juan of just everything, but I do have all of these beautiful women walking into my room. And so what was neat is that Heather got to share her story. And there's a whole nother 75 lessons we can learn to get her down to tell the story. How you doing, girl?
I'm good. This morning.
I love you.
I love you too.
So it was pretty neat sharing with her, huh?
It was definitely, it wasn't planned. Like I actually had a pretty rough time getting down to the table. I had a moment and I was stuck upstairs in the room, and I finally went downstairs and everybody was having dinner, and we just got to talking, and it was a conversation, and it was pretty awesome.
I'm gonna let you get ready. Because Heather's kind enough to me to say, okay, I'll stay here as long as you need me, but I'm going. I know. So here's the thing. All of these things happened. All of these moments take place in life because we show up. When Heather said she was trapped in the room, she actually wound up, Bree, with the story of fear. She was standing in the corner.
That fear thing.
Yeah.
That fear thing that he was talking about, that is everything that happened. Like, I isolate myself, I go away and I shut down and I be quiet and I have to have a million minutes with myself. And I did, but then I told that thing to take a seat, and I walked out the door and I went downstairs, and then this amazing experience happened. So that's courage. Like the fear's still there, but you still have to do it.
So listen, these are the people we all get to hang around. And what I mean by that is when they did a download, right? Pink Robe Lady, Patricia, who's next door as well, and another amazing soul of faith, and just an incredible mom and friend. And the reason that this is important is because at some point you're going to be stopped. You'll be stopped by somebody else's words. You'll be stopped by your words. And when we'll actually one day have Heather tell the story of what it took to get downstairs. But here's the other thing. How many of us remember seeing that message that says, on the other side of fear is everything you want? And that's what happened to Heather last night. She was literally in the room next door pacing, and we were having a little debrief. I said, how many times did you walk to the door? And most people they think when you ask that question, what do you mean walk to the door? You walk to the door and you walk out. Not when you're in fear. You bump up against that door 1,001 times. You put your hand on the handle 10,000 times. The fear only exits once you open the door and then walk through it. Some of us are right now, we are so scared, but we've got the door open. Some of you on here I know have been skydiving. And if you've ever done tandem skydiving, you're hanging out the plane while the tandem guy, parachutist, is hanging onto the bar inside of the plane, and you're literally leaning out of the plane like this. You still haven't skydived until you fall out of the plane. And then when you fall out of the plane, I remember falling out of the plane, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna die or go blind. Oh, did he just post his video? How cool is that? But when you fall out of the plane, and then all of a sudden, then there's this, you got to do the form, right? So when you step over on the other side of fear, when you step through the threshold of being stuck, you can still be in fear, but you can be fear in falling, right? And when you fall, listen, if you've ever skydived, when you get on the ground, there is absolutely no feeling. There's absolutely nothing you could ever feel like. So all of that to say, Bree, it was a great question, and thank you for asking that. So the thing is that today there's things you fear that you may not be aware of. How did Bree come up with this question. She said, in meditation, things are starting to flow around. So I'd encourage you to take the rest of this morning's call, the rest of this time that we would normally spend. We've spent sometimes, an hour and a half is usually the norm anymore. But I'm going to end this call here in about the next 2 minutes. I'm going to ask you to take the next 30 minutes or so, the next 20 minutes or so, and just start to organize things in your brain. Just calm down. Look at your day. Look at your day and say, is there any place in time? Is there any moment in time where fear might show up? I mean, and not the gunpoint to your head kind of fear. I'm talking where you need to expand yourself, where you need to bring yourself to the next level, where you need to have a conversation with somebody that may not be easy, where you're going to go prospect. Do you get a little nervous when you prospect? So enjoy your day. I do absolutely appreciate each and every one of you. I'm glad I got to jump on here for a little bit. I want to be able to
Love you, Sean.
You guys absolutely make my day ecstatic.
Have a wonderful day.
So
You're amazing. Thank you so much, everybody.
Everyone have a
for your time,
great
yo.
night.
Thank you. Have a good day. Good morning.
Everybody have a blessed day. Enjoy your day out there, Sean.
enjoy, buddy. Keep track
Enjoy.
on Instagram. There's going to be some fun photos.
Oh, have a great day.
Oh.
Everyone have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Great day, everybody.
All right. Great day, you guys. Thank you, Sean.
Have a blessed day, everybody. Love you all.
I love you too. We love you too.
Love everyone.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great one.
Y'all back. Have a good day.